The world is full of mysteries, but some are stranger than others. One of the most puzzling mysteries people talk about today is something called the Mandela Effect. It is the strange experience of remembering something one way, only to find out that reality shows it another way. For many, this is not just about bad memory, it feels deeper, almost as if two different versions of the world have crossed paths. Could this be evidence of parallel worlds brushing against each other? Or is it simply a trick of the human brain? This narrative explores the origins of the Mandela Effect, the most famous examples, the science behind memory, and the possibility of alternate realities. The name Mandela Effect came from one curious event. Many people around the world clearly remembered Nelson Mandela, the former president of South Africa, dying in prison during the 1980s. They recalled watching news reports of his funeral, hearing about riots that followed, and even listening to world leaders make statements about his death. Yet history shows that Mandela did not die in prison. He was released in 1990, became president in 1994, and lived until 2013. When people compared their memories, they were shocked. How could so many strangers across the world share the same wrong memory? A paranormal researcher named Fiona Broom gave this phenomenon its name, the Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect is not limited to Mandela's story. People point to countless everyday examples that seem to shift reality. The Berenstain Bears. Many remember the popular children's books as the Berenstain Bears, spelled with an E, but in this world, they are spelled Berenstain, with an A. The Monopoly Man. Some people recall the famous character wearing a monocle. Look closely, he never had one. The fruit of the loom logo. People remember a cornucopia behind the fruit, but official records show there was never a cornucopia. Star Wars. The line, "Luke, I am your father," is remembered by millions. Yet the actual line is, "No, I am your father." Pikachu's tail. Fans of Pokemon swear Pikachu once had a black tip on its tail. In reality, it does not. These examples may sound small, but they leave people unsettled. If memory is so fragile, why do so many people misremember the exact same details? At first glance, one might think these are just mistakes in human memory. After all, people forget things all the time. But the Mandela Effect is different because it is collective. It is not just one person recalling incorrectly. It is thousands or even millions who are convinced of the same alternate version of events. Psychologists say this could be explained by something called confabulation, where the brain fills in gaps with information that feels right, but is actually false. Social influence also plays a role. When people talk about their memories, they may unconsciously shape each other's beliefs. Yet others argue this explanation feels incomplete. How could such specific false details appear in so many minds across the globe? This is why some turn to the idea of parallel worlds. Imagine that reality is not one straight line but many. In this theory, there are countless versions of Earth, each slightly different. In one world, the children's book might really be called Berenstain Bears. In another, Pikachu might truly have a black-tipped tail. Most of the time, these worlds never cross. But sometimes, according to this idea, they overlap just enough for memories to bleed from one world into another. If this is true, then the Mandela Effect is not about forgetting. It is about remembering a piece of another reality. Science does not directly prove the Mandela Effect. However, some concepts from physics spark curiosity. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, for example, suggests that every possible outcome of an event creates a new universe. If you flip a coin, in one universe it lands on heads, in another, it lands on tails. If these universes exist, could small slips between them explain the Mandela Effect? Other scientists point to the nature of memory itself. The brain does not work like a perfect camera. Instead, it rebuilds memories each time they are recalled. In this process, small errors can sneak in. Over time, errors can grow into full false memories. When millions of brains make the same mistake, it can look like a glitch in reality. Before the internet, people may have had these strange experiences but kept them private. With the rise of online forums and social media, people began sharing their odd memories. To their surprise, they discovered others remembered the same things. This gave the Mandela Effect more power, turning individual doubts into global conversations. On platforms like Reddit and YouTube, countless videos and posts dive into new examples. Some treat it as harmless fun, while others see it as serious evidence of parallel worlds. Part of the Mandela Effect's appeal is that it touches on something very human, the fear that reality is not as solid as it seems. We like to believe that the world is stable, that facts do not change. Yet the Mandela effect shakes that belief. If we cannot trust our memories and if millions share the same wrong memory, what does that say about the nature of truth itself? The idea of parallel worlds also appeals to the imagination. It suggests that somewhere there might be another version of you, living a slightly different life. Maybe in that world you chose a different job, married someone else, or live in a different city. The Mandela effect acts like a small crack in the wall, letting people peek at those possibilities. Of course, not everyone agrees that the Mandela effect is mysterious. Skeptics argue that human memory is deeply flawed. They remind us of the false memory experiments by psychologists like Elizabeth Loftus, who showed how easy it is to plant fake memories in people's minds. For example, participants could be convinced they had once been lost in a shopping mall as children, even if it never happened. From this view, the Mandela effect is simply a large-scale version of the same thing. A mix of bad memory, cultural references, and social reinforcement creates the illusion of alternate realities. Whether real or not, the Mandela effect has left a mark on modern culture. Movies, books, and even marketing campaigns reference it. It sparks endless debates at parties, classrooms, and online discussions. For many, it is not about proving physics, but about questioning the certainty of memory and reality. In a way, the Mandela effect shows how powerful collective belief can be. If enough people share the same memory, it can feel as real as fact, even if it never happened. At its core, the Mandela effect may not just be about memory or physics. It may be about the human need for mystery. Life often feels ordinary, but the Mandela effect adds a touch of magic, making the world feel strange and exciting. Even skeptics admit it is fun to wonder, what if? What if there really are countless worlds stacked side by side, and sometimes we glimpse another one? The Mandela effect remains unsolved. Is it proof of parallel worlds? Or is it just a reflection of how fragile memory can be? The answer depends on who you ask. Scientists lean toward the memory explanation. Dreamers lean toward the multiverse. What cannot be denied is that the Mandela effect makes people question reality itself. It reminds us that even the smallest details, like a logo, a line in a movie, or the spelling of a name, can carry profound questions. In the end, whether the Mandela effect is a glitch in memory or a glimpse into another world, it tells us something important. The universe, and our place in it, may be far stranger than we imagine, and perhaps that mystery is what keeps humanity searching, questioning, and wondering if the world we see is only one of many.